Welcome back, my friend. I'm saying back because it feels like Ask a Librarian, but I'm so happy to see you. Thanks for being here today, Miss Madeline
Oh,
Martin.
thank you so much for having me, Julia. I really appreciate it. I kind of wish I had like a little tiny news network microphone that I could speak into.
Yes, that would be perfect, actually. And I thought about it. I need to try it on the computer and see if it works because I use the bigger microphone, but I need to try it. It actually has shockingly good sound.
Oh, really? Well, I in my head, you actually had the little tiny microphone, but you just had it right against the camera, so it looked really big, but it's still a tiny microphone. So
Oh
I'm
my
just going to leave that
gosh.
in
I
my head.
love that. I'm very excited. You should know my tiny collection in the library. I moved it to the back of my desk because it was becoming a bit of a distraction for the kids. And some of them are not happy about it. They're
Oh,
like, so can you move it back now? Because now we know what we're doing. And I said, fine.
I love it.
Okay, so I'm excited to talk to you. Well, and I know we're talking about the Book Lovers Library, which came out in August, right?
September 10th.
September 10th. So close. Wow. I'm already nailing my details. Very good. Okay. September 10th. I got to read an early copy of it and I loved it. I've read many of your books and this one was my favorite for now. My current favorite, I should say. How was the writing process for it?
It was actually a lot probably easier than the other historical fictions because I already had a foundational knowledge of really England in that particular time period because of having done research for the last bookshop in London.
Yes.
And this time I did get to go to England to do research. I didn't get to go for the last bookshop in London because I wrote it during the pandemic and everything was completely shut down. But this time I did get to go to Nottingham, which was pretty amazing. I got to go to the original Book Lovers Library, which is still standing. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, the inside is a Zara. And so the inside is totally glossy white walls and halogen lights and like has no soul. But the outside is still really beautiful with this like scrolling stonework and stained glass windows and this pretty tower clock sort of on the corner. And I got to go and do a tour of the underground cave system that they used to shelter in during the air raids, which was really neat. And they do actually have a lending library still in existence, which is really cool because they kind of fell out of favor in the 60s. And it's called Bromley House. And it's from the 1800s. It's in a four-story townhouse that originated in the 1700s. And it has this cool spiral staircase that's like 200 years old. And apparently it's a walk at your own risk because it kind of wobbles. And I was like, I am not going to be that American.
You didn't want to be in the news for that.
No, I was like, I'll take your word for it and I'll photograph it because it's lovely. And that is the extent of it.
And we're done. Is it lunchtime?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
That is so amazing. And I totally skipped over what Book Lovers Library is about. And it's the story of Emma and her daughter Olivia. And will you give the brief pitch so everybody knows?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank
It is
you.
a heartwarming homefront read set in Nottingham at the very beginning of World War II about a widowed mother who has to send her daughter away during the evacuation of children in England. And it's set in this lovely little place called the Book Lovers Library, which is based on the real lending library, the Book Lovers Library.
That's amazing. I think of all your books that I've read, I would love to see this one on film.
Oh, thank you. I would love
I
to see any of them on.
If anyone's listening, any agents out there, we need to come on down. No, I think something about it just felt I could see it so much in my mind. And some of that is to your writing too, where you have such a way of creating place, historical place, without it being too heavy or distracting. You just have such a good your writing technique is something I love. So I loved reading it. And I think people will too. I also was reminded how rough it has been to be a woman in the past because the idea that a widow with children could not get a job.
Right, exactly, because of the marriage bar. And basically, they expected if a woman was married, her full-time job had to be being a wife and a mother, and so she had to give up her job. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I'd wanted to write about the Book Lovers Library, because apparently the women who worked there loved their jobs so much that they didn't want to get married, and they had statistically longer engagements than women in other areas of employment because they loved their jobs so much they didn't want to give it up. And unfortunately, this did extend to widows that had children as well because their full-time job should have been being a mother. But as you and I both know, being a mother does not pay well.
No, no, it does not.
A lot of money to have this job. It's a very expensive job. Um, Says the mother whose daughter just left her brand new Lululemon jacket in the hotel when we were at Disney this weekend. Awesome. I know.
Oopsie
Yeah.
daisy.
It wasn't like a Target jacket, of course. It was, of course, Lululemon and brand new.
No,
Anyway,
no, you only lose expensive things. That is a
they're
rule.
brand new, especially. So anyways, but yeah, so it's one of those situations where a woman who was a widow. Oh, sorry, I'm actually getting ready to have one of my kids walk in the door, and it's going to set the chime off.
Perfect. I look forward to it. No, we do real life here.
Okay. Oh,
This is
okay. Well, then you
perfect.
guys get to hear her right when she comes home. This is great. See, you can't get this and recorded and all the editing and everything.
No, this is only Tiny News Network stuff right here.
Yes, I like this. And my children have just come. Well, one of my children have. The one is
Perfect.
So, but yeah, so, it's one of those things where if a woman was left as a widow with a child, really, the government expected her to just become a full-time mother, which doesn't obviously work out well. So her family was really kind of expected to help take care of her. And in the absence of a family, it was just expected that, well, she remarry.
Right.
So it really was obviously not really a viable option. And, even like as a single mother, it's interesting because I really incorporated a lot of my experience as a single mother to my girls. I went through a divorce. I wasn't a widow, but, and every other weekend with my ex-husband, that doesn't amount to much when you have no family or in the area or anyone to really help out. And so I incorporated a lot of my experiences, not just the difficulty, because obviously it was hard, but also, there's a lot of judgment for single moms, which is crazy because there's like a 40% divorce rate right now. And you would think that with all the single mothers out there, there would be a little bit more acceptance. And there is, of course, but there's also still heavy amounts of judgment. And I can only imagine if I received that kind of judgment, what somebody in the 30s and 40s, when it was incredibly rare, would have to tolerate. But then there were also really lovely moments of being a single mom because you are the sole recipient of all of that love and affection. And it creates this wonderfully inseparable bond that is unlike anything else. So, it's not all sadness and difficulty and hardship. There really are a lot of lovely moments as well.
I agree. That definitely comes through in it, their relationship and just trying to figure out the way through the evacuations and all the things that they were going through. I think you did that very well. And you're exactly right. Every time I think, gosh, it's still tricky to be a woman, I can't imagine in those ages what people would have faced or what women faced. I can think about it. It's not very pleasant. So
right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to keep me grateful for what I do have. Although I like to because I have sons and I'm in a house of men, I remind them all the time that it is much harder to be me.
Well, and you know what? Someday their future wives will thank you.
Amen, sister. That's what we're going for. Okay, I want to talk to you really briefly about how you got into writing because you are a prolific writer. You have how many books now? Because I feel like last time I talked to you, you had 20 some?
Oh, I think it's 40.
It's 40 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I initially wrote romance and, so I wrote like over 35 romances and I have 4 historical fiction that have been published. And I have my next one, which is The Secret Book Society. That one is currently with my publisher. I actually just got my edits dropped onto my plate.
Oh,
but they're not due until Thanksgiving, which is like,
yes,
I'll take it. I'm okay with that. And usually I get it over Christmas vacation. So I actually don't mind that I got it right now and I get to I can turn it in and be like, you're it. And then I can just enjoy Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I published for the first time in 2015 with a small press. And then I did a second 3-book series with them. I started writing for Harlequin Historical. And around that time, I started also sort of delving into self-publishing because self-publishing at that time was making considerably better money than going with the publishing route. And so I started doing self-publishing. And at that point, you really have to publish a book every month or 2 to really stay relevant. And so I was working a full-time job as a business analyst and I was writing 6 to 8 books a year. And so I joked that I was a full-time business analyst, full-time mother, and full-time author.
Yeah.
Because I think any mother is pretty much a full-time mother.
Apparently,
And
that's the only option.
it just exactly. And so I really wanted to write a historical fiction, but it was kind of daunting, right? Because the historical detail needs to be so on point that I'd say it's almost more important than the protagonist itself. And so I was kind of intimidated by that. And I thought, I saw people sort of getting laid off at work, and I thought, well, if I get laid off, maybe I should just try writing full time. And so I told my husband that, and he said, yeah, go for it. So I finally got laid off. It's horrible to say that, but it was such a relief because I was so tired. Because I'd been doing this for like about 3 or 4 years. I mean, like literally never taking a sick day. Like I would have like a bucket next to me and be doing work.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was really, really intense. And I think I probably got like maybe 4 hours of sleep a night for like over a decade, just because of all the work that I was putting in before I started publishing. And
Yeah.
so I finally got laid off, and I thought, oh, this is going to be amazing because I'm going to have the entire house to myself. And a majority of my writing career, I had pretty much written in the middle of the living room, which
Hmm.
doesn't really bode well for creativity. And so now I have my own office. I was going to have the house to myself. It was going to be amazing. And that was February 2020. The pandemic happened 3 weeks later, and I got robbed. I know, but it still gave me the opportunity to write The Last Bookshop in London, and that made me realize that not only am I a history nerd, I am also a research nerd, and so I have completely enjoyed losing myself in historical research for these books, and so it's like I've kind of found something that I'm just really truly passionate about, and so I've just kind of kept up with it since.
That is amazing. I love stories like that because I obviously have a job in a library and I'm trying to work on this novel. And it is a reminder to anyone that wants to write a book that that's how the majority of people do it. I mean, there aren't a lot of opportunities, especially in the beginning, right? You're building so much, and it's not like writing's going to be something that's really going to be lucrative out of the
Right.
gate. So,
Well, and I think it's so important to remember that everybody has their path. You know,
yes.
I mean, like I know for me, I didn't have all of the rejections from agents in the very beginning. But one of the reasons for that is because I had done a critique swap with at a writers group. And I
Hmm.
realized that you guys, I sucked. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was not a good writer. And I stopped what I was doing, and I spent 5 years learning everything that I could possibly learn about writing. I would listen to books on CD. That'll tell you how long ago it was.
Love it.
Went to conferences, went to online workshops, anything I could possibly get my hands on. I was learning constantly. And then with that one book that I started writing, when I felt like I was confident in my ability after that 5 years, that's when I submitted it to 3 nationwide contests, and it finaled in 3 nationwide contests, and then it won first place in all of those contests. And then at my first conference that I went to, I pitched to my dream agent and she accepted. So, but I like to joke that I didn't get rejected by agents because I rejected myself first.
That's a good way to put it. But that's so true. I mean, I'm literally sitting here by Save the Cat Writes a Novel so that I can teach myself how to plot things. And I'm
Yep.
looking at your sticky notes behind you thinking, oh, I want in on that. But there is such a discipline behind it. And I think we
Yeah.
think of it, I think as readers too, if you come to writing as a reader like I did, I love books so much. And so there's this sort of magical element. And so you have to get past that and think, no, this is actually like everything else. And this leads to my next point. You just enrolled in an MFA program. Tell
I
me
did.
about, tell me about why you decided to do it and why now, like, what was your thought? Because I really respect and am so excited that you're doing that. And also I want you to tell me everything so it feels like I'm doing it too.
Sounds
Those are
good.
two things.
Thank you. So for me, education has always been a really big part of my writing career. The way I feel about it is I want every book that I write to be the best of my ability at that moment in time, with the expectation that the next book that comes out will be even better. And so to do that, I have done immersions with Margie Lawson. If anybody's ever done those, sorry, it is like a constant There is so much activity going on around
Oh,
here.
you're fine. I can barely hear anything. We're good.
Good,
Yeah.
because the door is open and shut like 25 times, I think. In like this 21 minutes that we've been on this chat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you get when it is live.
It's
Mom
true.
live, right?
This is just how we do it.
So, I did the Margie Lawson immersions. I would take like online workshops and everything. And when I went to college, I didn't even think about being a writer because in my mind, real people aren't writers. Like who has a real job as a writer? It felt so
Yes.
high in the sky. And so I went to school. I got a degree in business administration with minors in economics, political science, and accounting. And I started to become, I was a business analyst
Of
doing.
course.
And so as time kind of went on, because I've been doing this for over 18 years at this point, it does become a little bit more difficult to kind of learn in a generalized, like sort of class online. And
Totally.
so I would do book coaching. So I worked with Lisa Cron one year. And then I worked with another book coach this last year, Susan DeFreitas. And then this year, I actually was discussing it with Eliza Knight, and she and I love to do challenges. She's my real life best friend. She is the kind of person that's like, hey, I just learned about this amazing health challenge where we do lifting weights for 30 days. Are you in? I'm like, yes, I'm in. And she's always like, yes, I'm in. And so she was the one who brought it up to me. She said, I think I'm going to go for my MFA. And I thought, oh my gosh, good for you. And she goes, you could do it too. And I thought I could do it too. And so we're both kind of embarking on this program for the MFA together. And it's really exciting because, I've never had a formal education in the area of writing. It's all been self-taught. It's all been self-discipline and like, really going through a lot of the books, like the Save the Cat. Like I've always got, I've got one right next to me right now. Steering the Craft. And I've got one right down there. It's another one because I just have books everywhere, as we
Of
all do.
course. And I have
And,
Story
and
Genius, someone over there when you mentioned Lisa.
Yep,
Yep,
exactly.
exactly.
And yes. And so, this is just another great opportunity for me to really kind of delve into the educational aspect of my writing and hopefully come out of this an even stronger writer. And then after this, who knows? But I also do eventually plan on becoming a book coach myself as well.
Okay, I was going to ask that. You would be so good at that. Let
Thank
me
you.
put me on your wait list.
Okay, sounds good.
Because obviously I need help, clearly.
Oh, stop it. No, I read your book and it's fabulous. You do not need help.
You know what I love though?
Time.
You what? Sorry.
You need time.
That is also true.
And I cannot
Yes.
help you with that. Mine
No.
isn't just scrape it little pieces.
And that is so true. Finding the time is that tricky piece. But also, I do find when you were talking about writing in the living room, like a lot of my book was written with a million things happening around me. So there is a way to get it done. And in some ways, it can help you make sure that it's what you want to do, right? Like when you have to really pull that time out of just the air, it feels like, okay, this is something that matters to me. But yeah, I am so excited. So have you started classes?
I have, yeah. So we are well within. In fact, so I went on my book tour, and the day that I got home from my book tour, classes started.
Perfect. Love
Yes.
that.
So, but it's been really going well. There are some really cool exercises that I had a chance to do. One of them was to write a descriptive scene that was 200 to 300 words using no adjectives and no adverbs. And it actually took me like 2 hours to write it, but it was such an interesting flex to my creativity and to my knowledge base. It was really fun. I would never like just make myself do that.
Yes.
But because it was homework, I was like, I started and I thought, oh my gosh, this is really actually very tough. But it was fascinating what I was able to come up with.
That is the kind of stuff that you're exactly right. There's no way I could make myself do it, but
Right.
it is, but it is such an exercise. And you're right, especially for you with so many books written. I'm sure there's a part of it where now you can start to, not that you're on autopilot, but I would imagine like you kind of know, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I write. And so to have a window into that now feels like it's so valuable.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, I feel like my fingers know, and like I have gotten to the point where I can structure a story. And then once the story is structured and I've done all of that, because I usually do like 10 months worth of research before I start writing my book. Because I'm able to write very quickly because I have written so many books. So it's like once it's all put together, my mind just kind of goes with it. My fingers follow along, frantically trying to
Right.
catch up. And
Yes.
and so yeah, so I mean, like, it is, but it's nice because I don't often take a chance to really step back and reevaluate things, which is another reasons why I also like to work with book coaches, because it does also give me the opportunity where they sit there and they dissect things from a sentence by sentence structure. And
Hmm.
that makes me look at it and really kind of evaluate, okay, yeah, I understand how this particular word could be strengthened by this particular verb or whatever. And so it's just an opportunity to always hopefully have my books always be better and better and better.
I love that. I find that so inspiring. I admire you so much. I'm so happy to call you friend. And you are such a generous author too, and a generous member of the writing community. And it's just so fun to even be connected to you. So
Oh,
thanks.
well, thank you. I feel 100% the same about you. I mean, you are just always, I love your Tiny News Network. And just, you have like such a fabulous personality. And I love that we connected over Harry Potter when we were doing the library interview.
I should have worn my Hermione earrings that you
Oh
gave
my
me. I
God,
wear them all the time. I love them.
I love it.
Wingardium Leviosa. And apparently there's a Harry Potter bar, I think, in San Francisco
Oh my
that
God.
I'm going to find and we can meet there. I mean, I know we're on opposite coasts, but I feel like that can happen,
You know what?
right?
Maybe if
Eliza
I
can
fly out
come.
for an interview, I can write off my taxes.
The joys of a writer. Well, thanks for the time today, friend, and for being who you are and writing the books that you do. And I can't wait for more people to discover the Book Lovers Library.
Thank you so much. It's always such a joy to chat with you.
Same.